Okay, Nate, today you wanted to talk about some of your activism over the years.
Yeah. Well, I've always absolutely believed it's like a responsibility to be involved in politics. I think we're very fortunate to have a legal right to have a say in politics because there's many countries where you can't speak your mind at all, and throughout history there have been many regimes that suppress people's rights to stand up for themselves and their perspective. So I've always been very active in trying to promote ideas that I think are important. Over the years, I've done many things. I moved into Newcastle about 8 to 10 years ago, and pretty much straight away started stirring up the pot because I believe in stirring the pot up a bit. You know, get people talking, get them discussing the issues, encourage conversation. When I moved into Newcastle, I was at uni at the time and I got involved with the Socialist Equality Party and I did a bit of handing out their stuff with them for a while, but I don't agree with their thinking, so I don't associate with them anymore. And then I was involved. I did a series of interviews with a bunch of trade unionists. That was when Tony Abbott was Prime Minister, and I interviewed a bunch of the union guys about their views on Tony Abbott, and also did some handing out of flyers with them and stuff. We were dealing at the time with ships being built overseas instead of in Australia. The guys wanted the ships built in Australia, so we were handing out information about that to people around Newcastle. Then I went to a few meetings about organising protests against the Abbott government, about when Abbott was in power. What was that, 8-10 years ago? But what I really want to talk about is what I've been doing for the last 7 or 8 years around freedom of information. So, you know, the documents that I read extensively were CIA documents that were released onto the internet now about 7 years ago, and I was straight onto them when they were released because I've always been very interested in the affairs of the Central Intelligence Agency. You know, I come from a background where I've been very anti-America during the period of the Iraq War, and for most of my youth, very anti-America. So I was very interested in the affairs of the Central Intelligence Agency, so when this information was declassified, I was right into it, and I got into it and I read heaps of it, just heaps and heaps, and learnt a lot about how espionage works. Really interesting things to study, espionage. So anyway, what I did though, I don't know about the legality of this, and I certainly don't care, but I selected files that were, you know, only 2 or 3 pages long, so I'm not a rich man, and I'd print hundreds of them off, and I'd stand around Newcastle on different corners and different spots, and out the front of nightclubs while people were going nightclubbing, and I'd hand them the files, and then I'd explain this is a Freedom of Information release, blah blah blah, formerly secret document owned by the Central Intelligence Agency, and I gave those documents out to a lot of people. I'd also take the documents around, if I could get documents that were only 1 page long or 2 pages long, and I'd tape them up all around Newcastle. So I took hundreds of the documents and taped them to walls and taped them to street signs. And what I wanted to do was just get people talking about freedom of information and get it on people's radar that, you know, you can go and look at government records that were previously classified, and you can learn the secrets of the inner workings of the security community if you're interested in that, and a lot of that information is public knowledge and you're allowed to look at it. So I just wanted to drill that idea into people's heads. So I also wrote a blog, Modern Culture Network, where I wrote about a whole bunch of different subjects, but I also reviewed and critiqued about 100 of the documents from the Freedom of Information release. So I would post the document and I would write a summary of the document and what it was about, and then further to that, I would then pay Facebook to promote those posts, and I spent probably about $4,000 over a few years on paying Facebook to promote those posts, because this is how much I want to get freedom of information out there. Because one thing that bothers me, I don't like when the government keeps secrets and runs all these secretive operations without the knowledge of the voters who own the country, because it's our country. So the government shouldn't be running all these secret classified programs. People should have why does the government need to have all these secret classified programs? but over the years of studying it, my thinking about that has evolved a bit. But I still maintain, what right does the government have to have all these secretive programs that people aren't aware of? It just puts the government so much above everyone else. It frustrates me. The government isn't above anyone. So I wrote Modern Culture Network, and I wrote my reviews of the Freedom of Information releases, then paid Facebook many thousands of dollars to push those reviews, and many people read those reviews, and I dealt with many comments and many discussions with people who were reading my reviews. So I know many people read them. Then the other thing I do around freedom of information, and also a variety of different subjects, is I cover the streets of Newcastle in chalk statements, and I've written many things over the years. I've written freedom of information. I've written what was MK Ultra, because I'm really into raising awareness about the CIA's MK Ultra program, because I think people should know that they had that agenda at the time. So I've written that on the ground. I've also written various other things, peace, love, and all sorts of other political statements on the ground with chalk. And my idea is just wherever I can put a statement, if someone sees it and it makes them think, then that's a good thing, that's a victory. So I absolutely placard the city in chalk statements written all over the ground, and I've been doing this for about 5-6 years now. So every single person who looks at that statement and thinks, then that's a victory. So I've made a lot of people think, and I'm satisfied with that. So that's what I did for a long time around freedom of information, and I continue to do those activities of writing statements on the ground with chalk. And I also put up posters, and I try to come up with creative posters that get people thinking about the issues that I want them to think about. One time, me and my graphics mentor Tajin did an image of Peter Dutton as a mafia leader with a rifle and in a tuxedo, and that was really funny. And that was a bit of satire we did together. We did that by tracing a photograph of Peter Dutton and tracing another guy in a tuxedo and tracing the gun, and then Tajin helped me finish it off, and we put that up around town. So that was just designed to be a bit of a piss take on Peter Dutton really being a criminal, which is what a lot of people think he is. So that was, and that sort of stuff, you can put that out there, and that can really spark someone to think, and it can spark a discussion, and it's good to spark discussions. We want to get people talking, and we want to get people thinking. But I've put up other pictures too. I put up a picture of Barack Obama saying UFOs exist in reference to the remarks that Barack Obama has made about when he came into the White House. He was very curious about UFOs, and he asked about UFOs, and he was given a briefing, a number of briefings on UFOs. So, people don't realise Barack Obama's really into UFOs, and he's made remarks about that in the past. So I put up the Barack Obama UFOs exist poster, just to get people talking about that. And I've put up all sorts of other stuff as well over the years. So I'm always around trying to mind control people, but I'm not really trying to mind control people, I'm trying to free their mind. So any way I can put an image up or write something on the ground that will get someone to look and go, wow, and start thinking, then that's good for me. It makes me feel like I'm achieving victories and opening people's minds. It all comes down to this graffiti that I used to see on the school bus when I was a kid. I'd come home on the school bus, and there was this bus stop, and you'd drive by it, and on the bus stop it said, "Free your mind," and like that graffiti freed my mind. Ever since I've seen that graffiti, I've always been very open-minded. I think I already was. So I believe in the power of putting statements on the ground that make people think. That's what gets people thinking and gets them breaking away from convention and doing something radical and new. So those are some of the things I've done over the years to get people thinking a bit differently and to promote change, and I will continue doing these things for the rest of my life. So drop a comment, guys, and tell me what you think. Thank you.